not spending time learning how to understand how to read your chart, to have a heads up on what areas of life big transits will activate, in my opinion, is the equivalent of putting your head in the sand or willingly putting a blindfold over your eyes and then complaining you can't see. It's a freaking tool, a life skill. Welcome to the Anniston Riekstins Show. This space is created for the woman coming home to her voice, her power, her way. For the woman remembering who she really is, beneath the noise, beneath the roles, beneath the world's expectations. I'm Anniston, transformational guide, spiritual teacher, best-selling author, and creator, here to walk beside you, to share stories, wisdom, and energy that guide you back home. Here, we lead from the inside out. We create from overflow, not hustle. We rise not by becoming someone else, but by remembering who we've always been. This isn't just a podcast. It's a homecoming. So let's dive in. Welcome back to the Anniston Riekstins Show. I am so glad that you're here and tuning in. And today we are going to deep dive into your energetic preview for May. And because I think you can't fully understand where you're going without understanding where you just were, I want to start with a brief recap of April. What was actually happening energetically and why it felt the way that it felt and what it was asking of you underneath all of the noise. And then we're going to move into May. What's coming, what the major themes are, and how to actually work with the energy rather than get knocked around by it. So if April was a lot, if it felt intense and activated, like something was being cracked open and pushed to the surface, I want to start by saying that was not your imagination. The astrology and numerology of April were genuinely significant. And once I walk you through it, I think a lot of what you experienced is going to make complete sense. So let's start there. From a numerology standpoint, April was a 5 universal month and a 1 universal year. And that combination is about as activating as it can get. The 1 universal year is already asking all of us to step into new territory, to pioneer and begin and build something that hasn't existed before. There's an underlying pressure to the whole year around identity, around who you are now versus who you were, around making choices that are aligned with where you're headed rather than where you've been. And then April dropped a 5 into that mix. Now, 5 energy is the energy of change, disruption, freedom, and the unexpected. It shakes things up and breaks patterns and forces movement where there has been stagnation. In the best case, a 5 universal month and a 1 year creates a breakthrough. Things that have been stuck are suddenly moving, and a decision finally gets made or a pattern finally breaks. In the harder cases, it can create chaos and a lot of overwhelm. Too much change at once and feeling destabilized, like the ground is shifting faster than you can track. So does any of this sound familiar to you? And the astrology was completely in sync with that. April opened with a full moon in Libra on the 1st, which was immediately pulling our attention to relationships, balance, and anywhere we had been tolerating imbalance. A full moon in Libra doesn't let you avoid the places where things are out of alignment. It illuminates them. Yay. So right out of the gate, April was essentially saying, let's look at what needs to be rebalanced in your relationships, in your sense of self and relationship to others. So I want you to be thinking about how this showed up for you. Maybe in the places where you have been giving more than you've been receiving or accommodating more than you have been honoring yourself and your boundaries. Then as April moved forward, we had a significant stellium, which is a cluster of planets building in Aries. Mars and Mercury both moved into Aries and immediately encountered Saturn and Neptune, which were already there. So let me tell you, Saturn and Neptune together in Aries, not a subtle combination. About as subtle as a sledgehammer. Saturn is structure, discipline, reality, accountability. The planet that asks you to get serious and do the work. Neptune is dreamy and spiritual and dissolves the illusions. The planet that dissolves what is not real and elevates what is. Together in Aries, which is the sign of the self, the initiator, the one who takes action, they created this really interesting tension between wanting to charge forward and being asked to slow down and get clear first, between the impulse to act and the need to be honest about what is actually real versus what you're projecting or idealizing. And some of you felt this as a fog, like you were trying to move forward but couldn't quite get that traction that you wanted. There was energy wanting to push through, but something was unclear in your field. That was Saturn Neptune in Aries doing exactly what it does. And then on April 17th, the new moon in Aries conjunct Chiron conjunct Eris. This was the most significant lunation of the month, and honestly, one of the most significant of the year so far. Chiron, wounded healer, archetype of the wound that becomes the gift when you're willing to go into it honestly. Eris is the energy of disruption, of the truth teller, and of what truth gets ignored in the room. A new moon conjunct both of those in Aries is a very specific invitation to begin again, but not by bypassing what hurts, by healing through action, by speaking the truth that has been uncomfortable to speak, by initiating a new chapter with the wound, acknowledged rather than hidden. So the new moon in Aries is the astrological new year. It's the very first new moon of the new cycle, which means it carried extraordinary seeding power. So whatever intentions you set, whatever you chose to begin around April 17th, those seeds have legs. And that is not a small moment. And then just as the month was closing out, something significant happened on April 25th that we are going to feel well into May and beyond. Uranus moved into Gemini. I still laugh every time I say Uranus. Am I the only one? I guess I just have that kind of a sense of humor. And Venus then followed shortly after. So why is this such a big deal? I'm sure you've been seeing it all over social media. Uranus has been in Taurus for 7 years, shaken up our relationship to money, security, the body, what we value, what feels stable. And now it has moved into Gemini, where it will stay for the next 7 years. This is the energy of disruption and awakening, and it's shifting from the material to the mental, from what we have to how we think and communicate. From security to information. We are going to feel the effects of this shift throughout all of May and well beyond. So that was April. It was intense. It was activated. It was full of new beginnings, wrapped in old wounds being surfaced. One thing I do want to mention before we dive into May's energy is a 5 universal month is not supposed to be comfortable. It is actually supposed to be catalytic. So the discomfort was not evidence that something went wrong. In most cases, it was evidence that something old was finally moving through you. So if April was hard, I want you to ask yourself what moved? What finally came to the surface that had been underneath for a very long time? What decision got made, or what conversation finally happened, or what version of yourself finally got to put something down? That is your harvest for April. Now carry it into May consciously. Okay, let's talk about May. From a numerology standpoint, May is a 6 universal month and a 1 universal year, and the energy shift from April to May is palpable. We basically go from 5's disruption and change into 6's energy of love, home, responsibility, and harmony. 6 is the number of the nurturer, connector, the one who tends to relationships and to the community. It's also the number of beauty, of alignment, of bringing things into right order. After April's intensity, May is asking you to now integrate, to tend, to make beauty out of what the upheaval revealed. It's not a passive month. 6 energy requires action and accountability, but the action is relational. It's less about charging forward, and it's more about tending to what matters: your home, your family, your partnerships, your creative work. Quick note here, in April, the big decision, the big stake in the sand that I experienced on April 17th was Rudy, my husband, and I decided that we are going to move. We've been going back and forth on this decision. Of course, we didn't necessarily have all things lined up. We don't have anything really figured out. We know we're going to be moving from Wilmington, North Carolina to Montana, and that's about all we know right now. Yet, we kept getting this feeling like it's time. And that was exactly what that April energy was asking. It was asking you to start taking action, even though you don't have all the things figured out, trusting that clarity will come as you move forward. You'll get more information and you'll be able to see the picture a little bit clearer. And it's so interesting. My personal year cycle, which we all have a personal year cycle, which runs from year 1 to 9, just like the universe does. My personal year cycle runs along with the universal cycle. So I'm in a personal year 1 and it's a universal year 1. And this is a big year of new beginnings for me. And May being a 6 month and about home and about family, it was like I had been solely focused on career, work, content creation, all of the professional things had been my main focus leading up to now. And now all of a sudden my shift is get the home ready to list and thinking about what kind of home are we moving into. And it's just so interesting how these things really unfold. I didn't plan that. I didn't look at my year and say, you know what, when I'm going to want to move is definitely going to be April. I should, being a numerologist and someone who also studies astrology. And I can see that there's a likelihood for it, but it's one thing to project a likelihood for something, it's something else entirely to live it. And so I just wanted to share that with you because I think the benefit of understanding all of this information isn't just so you have more information in your head, because Lord knows we do not need more of that. It's so that you can create context and understanding and validation, because you better believe when we sat down to make the decision and we did it on the new moon on April 17th is when I literally called the realtor. That was my stake in the sand, our stake in the sand. I did it knowing that, wow, okay, so this is a 5 month of unexpected changes, of moving forward, of moving quickly, of being the pioneer, of doing something new. And I know that May is going to be a 6 month, which, hey, realtors, any of you that are in real estate, like you're probably going to have your best real estate month of the year, I would say in May, because universally, we're all going to be honing in on, okay, now we're changing. We've gone through all of these identity shifts. How does that relate to our home that we're living in? How does that relate to where the city we live in? How does that relate to, does this hold our family now, or do we need something new? And so I thought it was really interesting that that was so front and center for me. And yes, we are aligning on May 1st. Officially, our house goes live and I'm so excited. So I'll keep you guys posted. So I just wanted to add that in. Now, in a one universal year, the 6 month creates this interesting dynamic. So you have been initiating something new all year, and now May asks you to make sure the relationships and the structures around that new thing are like super solid. Are the foundations healthy? Are the people in your inner circle aligned with where you're headed? Think who's sitting at your table right now, and are you tending to your own energy, your home, your body, your creative life with the same attention you've been giving to what you're building? That's the underlying question May is asking, and the astrology will amplify it beautifully. Before I walk you through the 5 major themes of May, I want to remind you of something important, because the universal energies I just described are like the weather. They are what everyone is moving through collectively. And as I mentioned before with personal years, you're navigating that weather on a neutral ground. You are navigating it through the specific terrain of your own personal year number. Your personal year is a 9-year cycle of energetic initiation that runs independently of the universal year. It's calculated from your birth date, and it describes the specific theme, specific lesson, specific invitation that is most alive for you personally in 2026. So while we are all in a one universal year, some of you are in a personal year 1 yourselves, like me, meaning you are in a double initiation right now, a complete new beginning on every level. Some of you might be in a personal year 3, which is about creative expression, visibility, joy, voice. Some of you are in a 7, the year of deep inner work, spiritual development, solitude, and reflection. Some of you might be in a year 9, which is the completion year, being asked to release an entire 9-year chapter of your life to make space for what's next. Every single one of those personal years is going to experience the collective energy of May differently. So the Scorpio full moon asking for release is going to land differently for someone in a personal year 9 than for someone in a personal year 1. The Taurus new moon asking you to plant and commit is going to mean something different for someone in a personal year 4 than for someone in a personal year 5. Your personal year is the lens. The universal energy is the light. You need both to see clearly. So if you don't know your personal year number, and you really genuinely need to know this, by the way, here's how you calculate it. Take your birth month, add your birthday, and then add to the current year 2026, and then reduce it to a single digit. That is your personal year number for 2026. It activated on January 1st, runs through December 31st, peaks around your birthday. And here is a gift from me to you. At the end of 2025, I held a masterclass specifically walking through each of the 9 personal year energies, what they mean, what they're asking, how to work with them consciously rather than just being dragged through them. And I've linked that masterclass in the show notes below. So go watch it. It will give you the specific context you need to understand not just what May is doing collectively, but what May is doing for you in your specific year with your specific curriculum, because the universal energies are real and they matter. And your personal year is where it gets intimate, specific, where you stop reading the weather report for everyone and start reading the map that was drawn for you for this year. So find your personal year, go watch the masterclass, and then come back and read everything I'm about to say, or listen to everything I'm about to say about May through that lens. So Taurus season runs through most of May. The sun moved into Taurus on April 19th, and it's going to stay there until May 20th. And then Taurus, after Aries, is always a deliberate energetic downshift. Aries will ignite, Taurus builds. Aries will charge forward. Taurus asks, okay, but is this actually sustainable? Is this grounded in something real? After all of that Aries fire, the Aries stellium, the powerful new moon, the activation of wounds and new beginnings, Taurus season arrives as a breath of freaking fresh air. It's going to ask you to slow down enough to feel what is happening in your body, what is happening in your physical reality, and in the material conditions of your life, to stop riding on adrenaline and start checking in with what is actually true for you. So it's not a time to force. It's a time to consolidate, like to let the seeds that were planted in April take root, to be patient with the pace of something that is growing in the right direction, even if it's growing quietly. So here's the invitation of early May. What needs tending? What have you been too activated to actually sit with and nurture? Where does your body, your home, your physical life need attention? May opens with a full moon in Scorpio on May 1st, and Scorpio full moons are just not subtle, okay? They rule depth and transformation and what is hidden. So what we share with others at the most intimate level, essentially. Power, money, sexuality, death and rebirth, the things we don't say in polite company or around a dinner table. A full moon in Scorpio is going to bring all of that to the surface, whether we're ready for it or not. And what this full moon is asking is, what are you still holding on to that needs to go? What truth have you been avoiding in an intimate relationship or partnership? Where is there an energetic exchange in your life, whether it be financial, relational, sexual, or emotional, that has been out of alignment and needs to be renegotiated? Scorpio doesn't do surface level. It doesn't let you stay in the comfortable version of your story. It's going to pull back the curtain on whatever you've been conveniently not looking at and say, now, we're doing this now. The gift of a Scorpio full moon is that what gets released goes deep. This is not a superficial clearing, sisters. So if you are willing to go into what it surfaces, what comes out the other side is like real transformation. It's a weight lifted at a level that affirmations and surface level processing simply cannot reach. Work with it rather than against it. Spend time on Friday, May 1st asking, what am I ready to release? What version of myself or my story am I done carrying? What secret, what resentment, what fear, what attachment am I finally willing to look at and let go? Now let's look at one of the biggest energetic themes of May, and honestly, one of the next several years. Uranus moving into Gemini, which happened at the very end of April and is fully active throughout May. This is a generational shift. Uranus spends approximately 7 years in each sign, and it brings disruption, awakening, and revolution to wherever it lands. In Taurus, for the past 7 years, Uranus was shaking up our relationship to money and security, what we value, what we own, the body, the earth. We all felt it. The financial upheavals, the shifts in how we think about stability, the ways our relationship to what we consider enough has been fundamentally disrupted. So now in Gemini, that same revolutionary energy turns towards communication, information, thinking, learning, the way we exchange ideas. So expect the next 7 years to bring radical shifts in how we communicate in media, technology, and the way ideas spread and the way we connect with each other. Think Jetsons, okay? At a personal level, Uranus and Gemini is asking, where is your thinking stuck? Like, where are you communicating from habit rather than truth? What stories are you still telling yourself that need a complete update and rewrite? And Venus is also in Gemini for much of May, adding a layer of lightness, curiosity, and social energy to all of this. Venus and Gemini loves ideas, conversation, variety, being witty. After the depth of the Scorpio full moon and the seriousness of Taurus season, Venus and Gemini offers a breath of fresh air and playfulness and connection and curiosity and relationship. So here's your invitation for May. Let your communication evolve. Say the thing you've been thinking but not saying. Have the conversation you've been circling and be curious about the new ideas that are arriving. Because with Uranus and Gemini, the ideas coming through right now are not random. They are the beginning of something. And if they're bubbling up in your awareness, it's for a reason. On May 16th, we have a new moon in Taurus, and I want you to mark this one because it carries a specific kind of power that is different from April's Aries new moon. The Aries new moon was about initiating, about beginning from the fire of will and desire. The Taurus new moon is about true planting, not in the abstract, but in the physical, material, sensory expression of that. Taurus new moons ask us to get grounded in what we are building, to connect intentions to actual tangible action, to anchor the new chapter into the body rather than keeping it only in vision and desire of the mind. So this is the new moon for practical commitments, financial intentions, decisions about what you want to build in the physical world, your home, your body, your creative work, your livelihood. So Taurus is ruled by Venus and it understands beauty and pleasure and sustainability. The seeds planted here are going to be slow growing and they're going to be deep rooted. They do not produce overnight. I'm going to repeat that. These will not produce overnight, but they will produce abundantly with patience. Ask yourself around May 16th, what do I want to build that is truly sustainable? What do I want to commit to in the physical world, not just in my mind as a vision, but as a real embodied practice? And plant that seed deliberately because it will grow. And then the final theme. On May 6th, Pluto stations retrograde at 5 degrees Aquarius, and it will stay retrograde until October 15th. That is 5 months of Pluto moving inward. 5 months, the planet of death, rebirth, power, deep transformation, doing its work below the surface. Now, Pluto retrograde happens every year. It's not a crisis, but it is an invitation. When Pluto is direct, its transformational energy tends to show up through external events and circumstances. Things happening to you, around you that force change. When Pluto goes retrograde, that same energy turns inward. So the transformation that has been happening in the world starts also happening in your psychology. This means your beliefs, your relationship to power, your deepest patterns. In Aquarius, Pluto is doing this long, slow generational restructuring of the collective, which is going to impact our relationship to technology, definitely AI systems, to community, what it means to be an individual within a larger whole. And during the retrograde, that collective reckoning becomes a personal one. So where are you in your own process of letting something die so something new can be born? Where are you holding on to power or control in a way that is no longer serving you? Where is an old structure in your life, whether it be a belief, a relationship dynamic, a way of operating that has run its course and needs to be composted? And here's how to make this really personal. The house that Aquarius rules in your natal chart is the specific area of life where Pluto has been doing its transformational work since 2024, and where this retrograde is going to ask you to go deepest is the house that Aquarius falls in for you. Hey, sister, let's take a quick pause because I want to tell you about something I have just released. It is a free numerology quiz called Uncover the Hidden Patterns Shaping Your Life. And all you need is your date of birth. Here's what you're going to walk away with: your life path number, the curriculum you came here to master, and clarity on the hidden pattern that has been quietly running your life without you even knowing it was there. Because once you can see it, you can stop blaming yourself for it. You realize it was never a you problem. It was just a pattern you hadn't seen clearly yet. And once you can see it, you can actually do something about it. One of my clients said it best. She said, Anniston didn't just tell me about my path. She helped me remember it. That is what this quiz does. The link is in the show notes. It is free and it is worth every minute. Now back to the episode. Okay, ladies, I'm going to pause and step onto my soapbox here, but I know I do this with love. I highly recommend you find and have ready access to your natal birth chart. If you don't have it saved, take a screenshot, save it to your favorites folder in your phone. My mission is to empower you to understand how to interpret your own design in your chart, how to understand your own timing and cycles because you have them, not spending time learning how to understand how to read your chart, to have a heads up on what areas of life big transits will activate, in my opinion, is the equivalent of putting your head in the sand or willingly putting a blindfold over your eyes and then complaining you can't see. It's a freaking tool, a life skill we were never taught Okay. So this is not about blame and shame. Learn to use it. You don't have to know everything. You don't have to get certified in numerology or astrology in order to be able to get the most important information from your chart when you need it. And if you want a deeper support here, a foundation to start from to get a full understanding and snapshot of your personal year, your soul contract, all of it working together, that is exactly the depth we go into in the Identity Blueprint Intensive. Pluto doesn't do surface level, and neither does the sacred work I do. So here's how I'd summarize May in a few sentences. And then I want to leave you with one specific thing to consider as you move into this month. May is a month of integration, of tending and of deepening. After April, crazy April, May asks you to slow down enough to be honest about what the activation revealed, to tend the seeds that were planted in your life, in your relationships, in your creative work, in your body, to go deep where the Scorpio full moon takes you, to plant deliberately with the Taurus new moon, to let the communication shifts of Uranus and Venus and Gemini rewire the way you're sharing yourself and your work in the world. The 6th universal month energy underneath all of this is asking, how are you in relationships? How are you at tending and receiving love? Not just offering it, but actively tending it in your most important relationships, in your relationship with your own creative work, in your relationship with your body, your relationship with your home, and your relationship with the vision you've been carrying for your life. Because the one universal year is asking you to build something new, and May is reminding you that you cannot build something sustainable on untended, rocky foundation. Tend first, build from that. And if you want to understand what this month's energy means specifically for your own blueprint, your personal year, your personal month, specific themes that your numerology is running in 2026, come find me. That is exactly the kind of personalized reading we do inside the Identity Blueprint Intensive, because the universal energies are the weather and your blueprint is the unique terrain you're navigating that weather through. It's invaluable. And knowing both will change everything. All right. I will see you in May, sisters. I love you. Thank you for tuning in. I'm really excited to hear how this month unfolds for you. I love to hear from you. So please, please, please come find me on Instagram. If you don't follow me, please do. I invite you to, as I share more information on numerology, astrology, embodiment, the divine feminine. Also, if you haven't tuned in to what I am lovingly calling my Truth Teller series, highly recommend that you do. The last episode I dropped was about the witch wound and how it is impacting your ability to stand in your power and be seen and be heard without the fear and resistance. This episode is changing lives, and I have loved hearing from everyone who has listened to it. And there are so many more Truth Teller episodes to come. So make sure that you've subscribed so you do not miss them. And I will also ask that you share. If an episode has touched you, I ask that you share it online, share it on Instagram and Facebook, or send it directly to women that you know need to hear this. This is about resonance, ladies. It's about feeling into what is resonating with you, which means it's for you. And then allowing that resonance to help you change the way you see yourself, the way you see your world, and ultimately your mission, because you're here to do something important. All right, that's enough from me. I love you. I see you, and I'll check you on next week's episode. Thank you for being here, beautiful soul. If this episode spoke to you, I'd love for you to pass it along to another woman who might need these words today. And if you feel called, it would mean so much if you would take a moment to rate and review this podcast. It's one of the best ways to support this work and help these messages reach more women who are ready to remember who they are. And if you'd like to stay connected or share what's landing for you, come find me over on Instagram. I'd love to meet you there. Until next time, keep trusting your rhythm, keep honoring your voice, and keep becoming the woman you were always meant to be.